On October 23rd, 2018, in Rome's Olympic Stadium metro area, the air was filled with the smell of coffee and the growing excitement of a Champions League night. Around 200 fans wearing red and white scarves poured into the metro station, singing and shouting as they squeezed onto a downward-moving escalator. None of them noticed the ominous rumble rising from deep within the machine. In an instant, the escalator went berserk. Within just 5 seconds, its speed surged from 0.5 meters per second to 2 meters per second. The chain snapped, and the steps folded like a line of dominoes, collapsing into a pile at the bottom like an avalanche. Screams, blood, and broken limbs formed a nightmarish scene that turned the romantic eternal city into one of horror and pain. Rome's metro system has long been considered a symbol of the city's modernization. Line A stretches 18.4 kilometers and opened in 1980, linking the city center with the suburbs. Repubblica Station is close to the Opera House and shopping district, serving as a key access point to the Olympic Stadium. Yet its design is extremely outdated. 4 entrances, all dependent on escalators, with no backup escalator and no ramps. An unusually fragile setup for a major European city, especially one built on sloped terrain. On this particular day, Rome was hosting a Champions League group stage match, AS Roma versus CSKA Moscow. Thousands of Russian fans had arrived, many of them cheerful and famously energetic. Among them, the CSKA supporters group known as the Fratria Brotherhood was especially lively. That evening, they walked from their hotel to Repubblica Station to head collectively to the stadium. The escalator involved in the accident was manufactured by a Finnish company and installed in the mid-2000s. It was 1.2 meters wide, roughly 30 meters long, with a 30-degree incline, capable of carrying about 9,000 passengers per hour. But Rome's metro infrastructure had long been deteriorating. Many escalators were operating well past their intended service life, and maintenance budgets were repeatedly cut. ATAC, the public transport company founded in 1908, had been plagued by corruption and financial problems. By the 2010 seconds, ATAC's debt reached 1.2 billion euros. Workers frequently went on strike, and although the mayor elected in 2016 promised reforms, progress remained slow. Just a week before the accident, local media had already reported increasing escalator failures. Another station, Barberini, had suffered delays due to escalator malfunctions. On October 23rd at 7 hours, 2 minutes and 45 seconds p.m., surveillance footage captured about 150 passengers descending on the escalator. Everything seemed normal at first. People chatted, took photos, some leaned casually on the handrail. But 5 seconds later, the motor emitted an alarming roar. The speed shot up to 4 times the normal rate. Passengers were thrown forward, those in front were hurled toward the base of the escalator. A man in a red shirt tried to cling to the handrail, but immediately lost balance. Screams erupted. Some shouted, "Stop! Stop!" But the emergency button did nothing. After 5 seconds of uncontrolled acceleration, the lower section of the escalator collapsed under the force. Metal chains snapped, steps folded violently, forming a jagged heap of wreckage. A teenager attempted to leap onto the adjacent stationary escalator, but fell. At the bottom, passengers took the full force of the impact. A 30-year-old Russian man's foot became trapped and crushed. A woman's leg was broken. Blood stained the metal. The crowd fell like an avalanche, forming a mound of bodies. Those at the bottom nearly suffocated. Amid the chaos, some survivors used their phone lights and called emergency services. The entire disaster lasted only 12 seconds, yet the damage was catastrophic. Immediately after the collapse, station lights flickered and alarms sounded. Metro staff rushed in with crowbars to pry apart twisted steps. Nearby police officers were among the first rescuers, carrying injured passengers out on stretchers. The accident injured 24 people, including 7 seriously, but remarkably, no one died. The only reason fatalities were avoided was likely the hollow space beneath the escalator, which absorbed some of the impact. Of the victims, 22 were CSKA Moscow fans, aged 18 to 45. 2 were local residents. The man whose foot was crushed had several toes amputated and required implants. A 2 5-year-old woman suffered double leg fractures requiring steel pins. A 1 9-year-old boy dislocated his arm. Emergency response was fast but chaotic. The first call was made at 7:03 p.m. and ambulances arrived by 7:10. Patients were taken to San Giovanni Addolorata Hospital and Umberto I Hospital, where surgeons operated through the night, racing to save limbs. Most others suffered sprains, bruises, and soft tissue injuries, along with severe psychological trauma. One die-hard CSKA supporter, 8-year-old Anna Petrova, said from her hospital bed, "I came here to cheer for my team, but I almost lost everything. The escalator felt like a monster devouring us." Her husband flew in from Moscow to stay by her side. Another man, 3 5-year-old businessman Igor Kovalenko, said the pain in his injured foot felt like fire and left him unable to work for half a year. Psychological support teams arrived the next day to help victims cope with trauma. CSK Moscow donated 100,000 euros for medical costs and return flights, while the Russian government sent an aircraft to transport severely injured fans. The average hospital stay was 10 days, with total medical costs reaching about 500,000 euros. Prosecutors launched a formal investigation the same night. On October 24th, police sealed the site and examined surveillance footage and the escalator's black box. Early speculation blamed fans for jumping, but video analysis disproved this. There was crowding, but no jumping. ATAC claimed maintenance was up to standard, but the mayor demanded an independent audit. A similar incident had already occurred in March 2019 at Barberini Station, where brake failure injured 5 people. Investigators combined the 2 cases and soon discovered a disturbing pattern. The escalator safety systems had been deliberately tampered with. In December 2020, the investigation concluded that the escalator's braking mechanism had been intentionally disabled. Plastic ties had been fastened around the brake components to prevent the safety system from activating, effectively blocking overload warnings. Maintenance records were discovered to be falsified, and further evidence revealed that no legitimate inspections had been carried out between 2017 and 2018. Technicians within ATAC were aware of these issues, but the company's management reportedly tolerated the practice in order to keep escalators running at maximum capacity without service interruptions. From a technical standpoint, the escalator originally had 3 layers of safety protection: a speed sensor, an overload relay, and an emergency brake. But because the brake system had been disabled, any overload caused the escalator's 5,000-watt motor to overheat, leading to inverter failure and ultimately to a complete mechanical breakdown, including the chain snapping. As the investigation widened, even more alarming information surfaced. By 2018, ATAC's equipment failure rate had reached 30%, 3 times the European average. Investigators summarized the root causes of the accident as follows: 40% due to intentional tampering with safety systems, 30% due to lack of maintenance, 20% due to design flaws, and 10% due to passenger overload. Clearly, this was not an isolated event, but the predictable result of long-term regulatory failure. In 2020, 14 individuals responsible for escalator oversight were arrested, including 4 ATAC managers and 10 Metro employees. Charges ranged from public procurement fraud to causing serious bodily injury. The trial began in 2022, and in 2023, all 14 were sentenced to prison terms ranging from 2 to 5 years, along with 2 million euros in fines. Victims were compensated between 50,000 and 200,000 euros each. After the accident, protests erupted across Rome. Thousands of citizens marched with signs demanding safety reforms and condemning corruption. Many criticized Mayor Virginia Raggi, accusing her administration of failing to address ATAC's 1.2 billion euro debt, which had severely limited maintenance resources. Labor unions soon called for comprehensive safety inspections of all metro stations, leading to a week-long strike that temporarily paralyzed Rome's public transportation system. Eventually, ATAC underwent partial privatization, and the European Union allocated 100 million euros to upgrade Rome's escalators. Repubblica Station, the the site of the disaster, was outfitted with a new dual braking design to prevent similar tragedies. Years have now passed, and the investigation has long since clarified the truth. Yet the deeper lesson goes far beyond assigning blame or paying compensation. A city truly rescues itself only when it learns from disaster. Modern public transportation is not defined by the length of its lines or the size of its passenger flow, but by the reliability of every brake system, the diligence of every maintenance check, and the transparency of every budget allocation. Without safety, even the grandest urban vision loses all meaning. Those 12 seconds of chaos should stand as a permanent warning to all who oversee public infrastructure, reminding us that every escalator carrying human lives must be a path of safety, not a corridor toward tragedy. That is the truest comfort for the injured and the strongest protection for the future. Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and share. I'm Thattstrange, and I'll see you in the next episode.